How you doing? You good? Welcome to Not All There. I'm Chad. I'm your host. This is a podcast where I talk to a friend of mine, Matt, today about his recovery. He has quite a story to tell, many ups, many downs, but he has persisted and is now 2 years sober. He is gainfully employed as a social worker, and he is a lovely, funny human being. And I'm really, really proud of where he is right now as a friend, to be along for the ride and to see where he is. And you can tell he's headed in a really, really great direction, and great things are going to happen for this guy. Persistence. We talk about that. He has persisted and finally has been able to get to where he is in his sobriety. It can be hard work. It can. And he's got an important message. He's got a lot of really, really deep, meaningful things to share about what he has gone through. And to be where he is and to learn to like and hell, even love himself, it's great. And to see that, you can see it on his face, you can hear it in his voice. Before I get to that conversation with Matt, if you're enjoying the show, give it a rating. If you want to hear me speak on a certain topic, shoot me an email, drop me a line, as they say. Email address is notallthere@gmail. Wait, no, that's not it. Not all their pod at gmail.com. One of these times I'm going to get that right on the first go. Not all their pod at gmail.com. Okay, I'm going to get out of the way, and you are about to listen to me speaking to Matt about persistence and self-love. Enjoy. Welcome in. I am here today with my friend Matt. Matt, say hello.
Hello.
There he is. I'm really excited to have Matt here. I've gotten to know Matt pretty well over the past 2 years now, I guess 3 years. Yeah. Great guy. And before we turned the mics on, I got to hear a lot about his story that I didn't know. And the topic that we had discussed prior to him showing up was persistence. Resolution, restitution, if you will, and how to learn to love yourself. And after hearing his stories, one thing about recovery, the longer you're in it and the more people that you get to talk to, you will find out that you and you have much more in common than you would ever imagine. And that's very comforting, because addiction can get very, very lonely. A lot of us were very alone at the end. And when we found someone that understood the way we spoke, it was the weight was lifted. Well, Matt, why don't you go ahead, give us a little backstory? What was it like, and how did you get here?
Sure, I'd love to. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on here.
Pleasure.
Yeah, so where to begin? I would say that persistence is definitely a big word in my life today, and it has taken quite a bit of persistence in order to get to the place where I am sitting here with you today, with over 2 years of sobriety again. So the journey,
I'm just gonna say, so okay, rehab, right?
yeah.
Rehab, like inpatient, outpatient, detox.
Yeah.
How many times? What are we, like, ballpark? 10, 12?
Yeah, probably 10 to 12.
Okay.
Combo of all those,
Yeah.
all the above, every level of care. And so, yeah, I would just say I initially first entered IOP was my first treatment. And at that point I was eating probably a handful of pills every night and washing that down with some of my favorite beer, microbrews. And
what was your flavor of pill, and what was your favorite chaser?
Oh, sure. So I liked benzos, Klonopin and Xanax. And then, so you got to have the short acting and the long acting,
Of course, you got to balance it
the
out.
combo. And then pain pills as well. So,
Yeah.
opioids. Started out with hydrocodone, worked my
Yeah,
way up
of
to
course.
oxy and all that.
Yeah.
Um, and then I always preferred like IPAs.
Sure you did. Sure you did. It's
I'm
got
trying
that
to,
nice high alcohol
yeah,
content.
like 10, 12%.
Yeah, oh, I
That'll
know.
do it.
I'm from Portland, man. Like pills, weed, microbrews. That's how we roll.
Right.
Anyway, go ahead.
Right.
Sorry. Just trying to, set the table here.
Sure. So yeah, at that point, I was 27 years old. I'm 39 now. I'll be 40 next month, and I, like I said, was eating a handful of pills every night, blacking out, washing it down with beer, and I had a girlfriend that I lived with at the time, and her dad was actually an addict. Go figure. And her ex-boyfriend was an addict. Go figure. And then there was me. And at that point, I was oblivious to it. I thought I was depressed. I thought I was I didn't know how to manage my life. I thought work was the issue. I was looking for all these other reasons other than the thing staring me right in the face. And so we were living together. We signed a lease to a second apartment together. And then at the very last minute, I pulled out and was like, I can't do this with you anymore. You're the problem. So I'm going to move into this place on my own.
This is going to go well.
Yeah. And I ended up moving into that apartment, and we stayed connected for a little bit. We would hang out from time to time. And so I woke up, I think it was like, what was it? Like Veterans Day or something, of let's say 13, 14 years ago.
Okay.
And so at that point I was in banking, I was in corporate finance, so I was in like wealth management. So every day, suit and tie job, thought I was very important. And
Wolf of Wall Street was very important to
yes.
you. Yeah.
And I remember waking up after the long weekend, because I had the Monday off or whatever, and it was Tuesday, and I was like, I can't do this morning. Like, I cannot go to work today.
Yeah.
And over that weekend, she had come over, and so it must have been like Sunday or Monday. I had woken up to her in my apartment, and I rolled out of bed and walked into the living room, and she was sleeping on the living room sofa. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing here? Like, why are you here? And she's like, dude, you have no idea what happened last night. I was like, no, I don't. Like, I was sleeping in my cozy bed, and now you're here. Why are you here? And she's like, dude, I came in, the door was open, your front door was open, you were passed out in your bed in a plate of pizza, and I cleaned everything up. You were yelling at me because you wanted more wine and this and that. And I was like, wow, I think I remember yelling at you for wine, but that's about it. And so whatever, I kind of apologized and thanked her for what she had done. And then she said, dude, I think you've got a problem. Like, my dad is an addict. The ex was an addict, and you have like all the exact same signs. And so I went and did like an intake assessment at Hazelden in Chicago.
Those are always fun.
Yeah, the first treatment. And they were like, oh yeah, you qualify for inpatient. Like, you should definitely go. And I was like, no, it's not that bad. You don't understand. Like, right. I'm important. I have a finance job. I have to keep that job.
I have a kerchief that I put in my pocket every day.
Right. So I ended up agreeing to do intensive outpatient, and did the like 6-week program, whatever. And I think I drank once or twice during the program. Mm-hmm. Like, the first time I came clean, the second time I didn't tell anyone, and thought I was like getting away with something, because I graduated and I had drank, and I was like, hey, suckers,
Oh,
and so I finished, and I realized, like, at that point, I was like, I'm not an alcoholic. I just have a problem with pills, and never mind the fact that like I've smoked weed every day for the last like 10 years. That's not a problem.
It's an herb. And
so I realized that like the point of this program was basically to introduce me to AA.
Yeah.
And that this was like a whole new lifestyle and like a new way of living. This wasn't like I was going to go there and get fixed up and then be on my way.
Right.
And so I struggled with that for a bit. I didn't like that fact. I didn't like the fact that they were like, you got to stop everything.
Telling me what to do.
Telling me what to do.
Yeah. I know what's best for me.
Exactly. And because again, I just had the problem with the pills, not an alcoholic.
Yeah.
And so long story short, I I started attending some meetings here and there. I got a sponsor just to like probably
Shut everybody up.
shut
Yeah.
everybody up, appease my parents, whatever, make myself look good.
The appearance.
Yes.
The appearance.
Very important.
Yeah, don't let them know what's going on.
Right. So I think I gave that a shot for, I don't know, maybe like 3 or 6 months. And then, before I knew it, I was drinking again. And then basically that's kind of, that started a long journey into the recovery world, which has looked like that, but longer periods of time in between each like return to use and then recovery period over the last like 12, 13 years.
Did you find with the relapse, was there like a reoccurring theme, or was it like resentment fueled?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I would say probably both. I mean, there was definitely resentment was always part of the picture, as it says, like it's the number one offender. And I believe in that for sure.
Absolutely. It's always somebody else's fault.
Right.
Or if you had the life I lived, you would drink too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I think the other common theme there was like, I think the most important thing is that I really feel like I wasn't truly like doing it for myself. Like, again, it was about the image, it was about the appearance, and it was like appeasing people, specifically like my family probably. And, wanting to like get better, but not like fully committing to like a different lifestyle of recovery, and not knowing like fully what it takes to like,
and accepting that you are going to run into some people just won't, not like they won't shut you out, but they just won't accept it in a way,
right.
Like, and it's people you wouldn't think that would be like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Are you sure you're an alcoholic?
Right. Well, and it honestly, it took my parents by surprise.
Yeah.
The first time they were like, "Oh, you're not that bad." I was like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm not." Right.
Yeah, from mom and dad. Like mom's like, "Oh no, you're fine.
Yeah,
you're fine.
Yeah.
Just it's good that you got a little, you dried yourself out, and
right
now you know what you can and can't do."
Exactly. So I played the whole game of like moderation or attempting to moderate and setting all sorts of limits and boundaries for myself, that none of which I could adhere to. And the other thing I think that is important that I should note is that, I mentioned pills, and I think that like I was definitely part of when that was becoming like an epidemic for us, like in terms of like the opioids or whatever, because every pill I took was prescribed to me. Like I was a master manipulator, and so I had it down to a science.
That's ballsy. I would buy drugs on the street, but I could never like, go and play that game.
Oh yeah, that was all I did, because I got my tonsils out when I was like 25, and I got prescribed liquid Lortab, and I was like, oh, this is nice. Guzzling this prescription pain medicine out of the bottle like it's a water or something.
Oh my
and
God.
That's when like the light bulb went off. It was like, oh, the doctor can be my drug dealer.
Yeah.
And so I used,
essentially was.
Right. And so I used
had a bad back, bad neck, that kind of thing.
Oh yeah. Bad back.
I sit a lot. I got this sciatic thing going.
Right.
Oh, I don't have time for physical therapy. Just
exactly.
I just need to get through the day.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, I had that down to a science. I mean, to the point of within an hour, I would have an appointment, make up whatever reason I needed to get, whether it was anxiety or whether it was pain that I was dealing with, and then have the prescription written, have it filled, and be popping that first pill in under 60 minutes. I mean, it's disgusting, like how
it was that easy.
Yes, it was that easy. And I take full responsibility for like.
No, of course. I mean, you made the choice to do it, but I had no idea that it could have been that simple, really.
Right.
I mean, anxiety, shit.
Right.
Who doesn't have anxiety?
Exactly.
How about 50 Xanax?
Right.
Sounds like a plan to me.
Right.
Oh, look, it's Friday.
And then it's Monday without any recollection. Right. So, yeah. I just think that that's an important part of my story, because I definitely, like I said, take responsibility for what I did, but I think that there's like something flawed in the system there. If like I can go in and say
Absolutely.
I can't deal with my emotions today, and so here's a pill that'll fix it.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
never mind the fact that that pill is super addicting, and if you stop taking it abruptly once you're addicted to it, you can die.
yeah.
You know, so um, but anyway, so back to the persistence piece. I think that there's been multiple times that I've fell down, and I think for me, it's all about like getting back up. It's not about the
Yeah.
fall. You had asked like if there was a theme in terms of the relapse, and I think that in addition to like the resentment piece, like yes, that always played a part. The other thing was just wanting some sort of like relief from like emotional pain that I was feeling. And so whether that was, a resentment or an emotion or anger or something unfelt that I wasn't dealing with,
Mhm.
or whether it was, you know, I was in a relationship dating someone and I wanted out. So let me
Yeah.
just go back to the drinking and using because I know that's
That's
an
gonna
easy
that's gonna
out.
seal the deal.
Yeah,
I don't have to say I can't do this
exactly.
anymore. Right.
And so it was a matter of like not facing life, basically, being in some sort of pain, wanting relief, whether it was from like mental health issues.
Yeah. Do you have a diagnosis for
I
mental?
do. I have OCD
Okay.
and generalized anxiety. So I actually do have anxiety, but I do not think Xanax is the answer to that today.
No. No. Just rip off a few push-ups, you might be okay.
But and then like CPTSD too, like
Yeah, I
complex
have that. Yeah.
post-traumatic stress disorder. So um yeah, I think that again, it was seeking the relief from whatever was going on in my day-to-day life, or whatever I was thinking about or dwelling on at that point in time, and not knowing how to like cope with that, whether it was something within my family, something with a friendship, something with a partner,
Like
whatever.
everyday life essentially.
Right.
Did you like subconsciously in the back of your mind like want to stop it? Did you have that like internal struggle like
Yes.
I know I need and I really really want to stop this, but
Yes.
I can't?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Did you get to the place that I did? I don't remember exactly what I thought the resolution would be, but that I needed something to occur in my life in order for me to be like, oh, okay, maybe you know, like, yeah, something bad needs to happen in order for me to stop because
Right.
I don't have the strength to just come out and say, hey, I got a problem. I need help.
Right. Right.
Something has to happen,
Yeah.
something bad.
Well, and I think that ties into a real struggle I had when I first went to AA and like started attending 12-step meetings. I looked for every reason to like not fit in and tell myself that wasn't for me, whether it was like I said, when I was first in treatment, I was like, I'm not an alcoholic. Pills are my thing. And then it's like, I go to NA and I'm like, well, I didn't do heroin or like smoke crack. So like, that's not really for me either.
No, but
And
I was hooked on opioids.
right.
It's essentially heroin anyway.
Exactly. you know, but again, like I realized that today, as I look back on that, it's like I was just looking for every reason to not do the work and not
Yeah.
try to change because I was scared. It was fear driven.
Man, not just, I mean, I can get back there in a heartbeat, but that fear of not knowing what my life is going to be like without this. Like this
Right.
is like I have created this identity. I didn't really care for myself probably ever. And once I discovered drinking and then drugs along the way, it created this persona, this identity that I was like, oh, well, now I have an identity.
Exactly.
Now I can relate to other people and people can relate to me. And I'm just this really good time and hard charge and hard drinking, fun loving guy.
Right.
But inside I'm fucking miserable.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely relate to that. I think that was how I got into it initially in middle school and high school or whatever, smoking weed for the first time and drinking. It was like, oh, this helps me feel like I fit in. This helps me feel like I can connect. This gives me that image of like looking cool.
Did you have a reggae phase?
I did.
Who Who was your band? Who was your jam?
Oh man, this is taking me back. Let's see.
Did you ever listen to Eka Mouse?
No,
Oh man,
no.
that's some shit. I'll play it for you off mic, but yeah, that was some stuff. Anyway, I just sorry, I was like trying to picture you. And I'm like, yeah, you
Yeah.
totally did.
Um, but anyway, so you know, I think back to the persistence piece, like basically the last 12 years have been, me reaching a new low, a new bottom, um, starting to realize I need help again, knowing where the help is, acknowledging I need the help, and then recommitting to going back to treatment. And again, whether that was like IOP to detox to inpatient to sober living. I think sober living played a big part of my recovery for many years.
How long did you do that for?
I was in the same sober living place essentially for 5 years.
Like consistent?
Consistently, I had, and that's the thing, like I said, when it's been, initially I went to IOP and then there was 3 or 6 months of sobriety and then a relapse. That time has gotten longer and longer in between each relapse. And so it's not like I would just have 30, 60, 90 days and then go back out. It was like I'd have a year, I'd have 2 years, I'd have 18 months, whatever, somewhere around there, which is not like long-term sobriety, but it's a
start.
It's a start,
It's a
and
start.
it's a decent amount of time to be putting together. And then something would take me out again, where my brain told me the only way you can get relief from this is to get high and drunk. That was my go-to for so long. And so it's like, what else would I do? I'm programmed this way at this point. And so let me go back to that. And I think that the other thing that terrifies me today is like, it's not that I thought a lot of times people will be like, oh, this time's going to be different. Like, or I'm just going to have one. It's like, I never thought like, I'm just going to have one, or
You knew what you were.
I knew exactly what I was doing. And I knew I didn't know where it was going to take me, but I knew it wasn't going to take me anywhere good. And I knew it wasn't going to end well. And I just didn't give a fuck.
Right. So you stopped giving a fuck. Were you prepared to die if that was going to be the outcome? Did you get to that point where you're like, I may not come back from this one?
Well, yes. Funny you say that because I have a little story. So I was once in sober living, like I was just saying, and I had a year and a half sober. It was right around the 18-month mark, and maybe it was sunny, maybe it was cloudy, maybe it was raining. I don't know, but for some reason I found a reason to go get high again. So I did my spiel. I went to the doctor's office, got some muscle relaxers, got some pain pills, stopped at Whole Foods, got my beer. And this is all while I'm in sober living on like a Sunday, and started getting after it. Went back to the sober living house, was grilling in the backyard, and the owner of the building came out and he's like, that's not the Matt that I know. Like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Basically called me out, called the, guy that runs the sober living community. And he comes, racing over, and I'm like, at this point I know he's coming. So I ran to the grocery store. I grabbed like a tall boy. I'm like slamming it, walking down the street because I knew it was like coming to an end. It had been like, I don't know, a couple days of a relapse. And he said, do you want another chance? And I was like, in tears, like just a complete mess. And I said, yeah. He's like, all right, pack a bag. You got like 5 minutes. Pack your shit. Don't let anyone see you. And like, I'll be waiting out front and I'll take you to detox. And so I ran upstairs and I had, a bottle at this point because I had just gotten those pills of like, I don't know, 23 Norco, and there was some remaining Klonopin or something or whatever. And it doesn't matter. Basically, long story short, I swallowed both bottles of pills. And I don't know what was going through my head at that point in time. Like, I was already buzzed, and I don't know if I said...
You're panicked.
I mean, I was definitely panicked.
Yeah.
And, to your question of, like, was I prepared to die? Like, I don't think that I was trying to kill myself. I like to tell myself that the intention was, well, I'm going to detox, so that's a safe place. So I'll be covered there. Well, little did I know that when you take that many pills... the Narcan doesn't always do anything, especially when there's like that much fucking Tylenol in those pills.
Yeah.
And so I woke up like 4 days later in the ICU, like strapped to the bed, intubated, catheter, all the above, and was like, "What happened?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, you stopped breathing like that. You know,
You
you
were
were."
you were dead.
Yeah, I mean the heart didn't stop, but my breathing definitely stopped, and so yeah, like, again, they had to intubate me and all that, and it was a big issue. Like when I was ready to get released from the ICU, they're like, "You need to go to the psych ward." I was like, "No, I need to go to detox." They're like, "Well, you tried to kill yourself," and so I had to like face that fact. I was like, "Did I?" Like, I guess that is a suicide attempt, isn't it? Like I swallowed like 30 pills at once, and so yeah, I think that is I have a very clear understanding that like that is where my
It's
disease
going to lead.
takes me
Yeah.
today. That's the point it's gotten to. That's
Yeah.
not where it started. It started with like 1 or 2 Norco and a couple beers.
Yeah.
And now today it's like, yeah, I'll swallow the whole bottle of pills. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
And that terrifies me. And that is something that I feel like helps me stay sober today.
Did you find when you went back out, did the use like increase? Did you find that you were drinking more, taking more pills?
Oh yeah.
Each time it kept going up and
Yes.
escalating, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I people don't really think about that. I took a bit of a break when we moved out here, and on my birthday, I was like, okay, well, I'll start drinking again. And 6-9 months later, I was out of my fucking mind. I could not believe how much booze I was consuming.
Right.
And it just wasn't doing it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. There's never enough, right? And like the Norco stops working, then you need Percocet or, Roxy or whatever. And it's like, it just keeps escalating. And then it's like, where does the line get drawn? Well, when you're 6 feet fucking under, that's where the line gets drawn. So,
or your bowels back up because you're so constipated.
Right. Oh man.
Sorry.
So
my brother was hooked on pills, and he
Yeah.
always like had some excuse for the reason. He's like, I haven't crapped in 3 days. Well, I wonder why.
Oh. Yeah. So let's see, where do I want to go with this? So again, sober living was a big part of the picture. It helped me tremendously, but I guess like fast forwarding, because I don't need to go through every single relapse.
Yeah, but look, that's fine. That's fine. So I mean, you that is like a microcosm really of like the next series of relapses and starting over points where like, so you've got what, how much now? A little over 2 years?
A little over 2 years.
Little over
now.
2 years. That's awesome.
Thanks, man.
What's it like now versus what it was like with your other prolonged breaks?
Yeah. Well, it started with, let's see. It started with, I was back in that deep, dark hole again, that dark place.
Mhm.
And it got to the point where it was like, everything I had wasn't enough. And like in terms of like scheming the doctors, like I couldn't get enough pills, I didn't want to drink anymore. It was exactly like you were just asking. Like it was that point where it was like, I don't want to be doing this, but I feel like I have to do this to not be sick,
Right.
And that happened quickly. That happened in a matter of like a month or two from when I had relapsed. Well, I was actually smoking weed for like 2 years there once they legalized it here.
Yeah.
The Cali sober thing, that does not work for me. Might work for some, doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
Because when I do something, I go all the way in. And so I was growing weed. I was eating weed. I was vaping weed. I was smoking weed. I was every way you could get it, I was getting it. And it became like an all day, all night thing. And at that point, it was COVID. And so I just loved isolating in my apartment. I was working virtually and I thought I had it made. And I was like, this isn't so bad. It's just me and my dog,
Oh my God.
I look at that now and I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking, right? Like, that's insane. And ultimately what that led to was like the full-blown relapse of pills and alcohol and weed, the combo of all three, which I quickly deteriorated and decided like I need to get some serious help again. And so I started making some calls. At that point, like my mom had come in to stay with me to like monitor me because that's gonna like do something, you
That's
know.
not triggering at all.
No, not at all.
It's great having you in here, Mom.
Yeah, yeah. And so whatever, I started making calls. I was like, I got to get like the hell out of here, like out of state or something. I just need to get away from everything right now. I need to change pace. And so got a recommendation from my psychiatrist, who's like an addiction specialist, and he basically recommended this place in Atlanta. So I was like, sweet, get me out of the state. I'll go there. It's this program for professionals, super old school. So it's like doctors, lawyers, nurses, therapists, business people. And I ended up going there and was there for like 3 months. And so I did 3 weeks of detox. It was the most brutal detox I've ever had. Felt like I was dying every day. And I mean, they had me on massive amounts of medication to like prevent seizures or whatever. And did this like, it was like partial hospitalization during the day and then sober living at night. And so it was like this combo program. And it was exactly what I needed, right? Like I got a change of pace that I was looking for. I got into some warmer weather, which not bad, you know, I'll take it.
I'll take it, yeah.
And was around people that were like very serious about getting sober. I feel like that's not always been the case when I've been to treatment with like younger folk or whatever. And
damn kids.
Just damn kids. And so basically I came back, and I should add into this story without talking like your ear off for 6 hours. In this 12-year span of like in and out of recovery, I switched careers. I went to grad school. I got my master's in social work. I became a certified alcohol and drug counselor. I got additional training in complex trauma, which is NARM, the neuroaffective relational model. Started working as a therapist. Met a woman in grad school. She got pregnant. She had a child. He's come in and out of my life in that period. And let's just say volatile relationship to say the least.
We'll keep it at that.
And when I was in treatment, I was talking with my son's mom like every day, and she was very supportive. And you know, I had this whole plan for when I was going to get out of treatment and what that was going to look like. And I was going to get regrounded in AA. I knew what I needed to do. I just needed to apply, you know, what I knew and start taking the action and doing these things. I was going to like create a family with this woman and my son, and you know, continue to take some time off of work, which I may or may have not been fired from that therapy job, leading up to returning to treatment. And basically nothing went as planned, other than the fact that like I've stayed sober. And so when you ask like, you know, how does this look different today, and you know, what am I doing, I think that first and foremost, like I had to get real with myself in terms of like, I don't know shit. Like, yeah, I have some experience in terms of like I have some education around this. I have some experience. You know, I've this like lived experience. I'm getting in touch with my emotions today. Like, I've been in therapy for years. I have a solid therapist. And like, in terms of sobriety, I don't know shit, because I don't know what's going to happen.
You
ultimately.
Can't outthink it. You cannot outthink it. I thought I could, you know, if I study enough,
right,
and learn enough, I'll outthink everything.
Right. And, you know, it even says like in the text or whatever, like self-knowledge alone, you know, is, I forget the exact phrase, but it will not suffice or whatever. And
you're fucked.
Yeah, because I think that, you know, I thought if I just could do it a little differently, I knew what I needed to do. I could do it. And today, like, I stopped thinking like I got this. I think in previous times of sobriety, I was like, oh, it's been a couple years now. Like, I can slack on the meetings, or not call the sponsor, or not help someone, or not talk about this emotion, or whatever like tool I've learned in the program and throughout the years in therapy and all this stuff. Like, I don't need to rely on that stuff, because I know myself well enough that like I'll be okay. And today, you know, I could sit here and say like I I will not guarantee that I'm never going to drink or use again. You know, it's
Right.
like I know I'm probably not going to do that today. I'd have no intention of doing that tomorrow, but like I literally don't know what the future holds. And then I hope I don't go back to that. I'm terrified to go back to that, but like I think that's been a huge shift for me. The other thing that's been really important is like owning, you know, my recovery and,
Right.
and like getting this sense of agency over my program. And so instead of like returning to sober living and relying on like having sober roommates and, you know, for so long it was like I'll be the first to admit, like I was babied growing up and my
Mhm.
parents took care of me and I
Yeah.
leaned on them for everything. And that's great. And I appreciate that. And like I needed to learn to like take responsibility for my own recovery essentially.
That was like a big eye-opening moment for me too. It was it's the self-awareness aspect of recovery,
Right.
and understanding yourself is difficult. It also, I feel, I mean, in my case anyway, it did offer some relief, but I was also really confused for a while by it. And it wasn't until, I mean, I just had 10 years, I don't know, a few weeks ago.
I know you did.
Yeah, thank
Congratulations.
you. Thank you. And uh, it wasn't until a year ago, I guess, at this point, that I really just was like okay with myself.
Right.
You know, do I love myself fully? Not quite, but I'm much better with it now than I have been. And I have found that that has offered me like a freedom that I didn't know existed. And it's one of those things for me right now where you know, much like you, like to get sober, you know, whether you relapse or you don't, it's hard fucking work.
Mm-hmm.
It's really worth it, but it's
Mm-hmm.
hard work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's like you have to focus on it one day at a time or break it down to an hour at a time. I sometimes have to break it down to like 5 minutes at a time. I just got to get through this 5 fucking minutes. Okay.
Right.
Another 5 minutes. But now that I have gotten to this point where I have this understanding, I see so many people in my life that are struggling with that themselves. And it is, I think it's a lot of expectations that we put on ourselves, that others put on us, and all that shit just really doesn't fucking matter.
Right.
And but you know, we can sit here across from each other and you know, more or less preach about this, but so many people are not going to ever understand that about themselves, and that sometimes makes me sad.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
how are you with yourself now?
Good question.
Mm,
Well, first of all, I want to take this opportunity because this is a perfect segue when you were talking about a day at a time and, you know, breaking it down even to the hour or the minute. Like I said, I've become a therapist and a drug and alcohol counselor.
yes, you
And so
have.
this last November, I finally passed the clinical exam. So I'm fully licensed now, meaning I could start my own practice. And so I did that this year in January. And I decided to name the practice One Breath at a Time Counseling because to me,
Amazing.
it was like an awesome combo of, you know, what this education that I have, but like everything that I've learned in the program. And that's what it really boils down to. Like, you know, I can be running around throughout the day and be like, I got to do this, I got to do that. And either planning for the future, thinking about the past. And I just stop and I fucking breathe, you know,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh yeah, all I have is right now.
Yeah.
Like that's all that fucking matters.
Yeah.
And so anyway, repeat your question again.
How are you with yourself right now?
Yes. I would say it's funny because every time we're in our Thursday meeting and you bring that up, it always resonates with me because when I was in the treatment this last time for the 3 months or whatever, I was in a meeting towards the end of it with the like medical director, and he was running the group we were in, and he asked us a question, and he's like, "Oh, do you know what the like number one indicator of like long-term sustained recovery is, what like post-treatment. And I had an idea, and I said, like, learning to love yourself. And he's like, not like that, you creep, you know? And I'm like, all right, buddy. But he's like, no, you're entirely right. Like, it's learning to be able to like accept who you are.
Yeah.
You know, it's self-acceptance.
Yeah, self-acceptance.
It's liking who you are. It's looking in the mirror and being like, hey,
Yeah.
that dude's not so bad.
It's not
you
so
know?
bad. And you know what? He actually has something to offer.
Right. And so that's like stuck with me to this day, that like, wow, I knew the answer to that question. And it's like, that is, I would say like the biggest things that are different this time around is the agency piece, like taking responsibility for my recovery, you know, not leaning on others to take care of me. I think when I ask for help, it's like I had to learn how to ask for help, and then they can take care of me. But like, I have to initiate that process.
You do.
You know, I can't just expect people to come take care of me.
The passive aggressive, like,
Right.
hello, I was in front of you this whole fucking time.
Right.
And you didn't see it. You didn't step in to help me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then the other big component is like liking who I am today.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be something that's lifelong, obviously, you know.
Yeah. Some days are fine. Some days are
exactly.
not. Yeah.
You know, it's totally a roller coaster, and there's waves with it. But compared to where I was when I was using, to even previous times of sobriety, like, I think that was something that was definitely missing for me. Was at the end of the day, it was like, do I like who I am? Am I accepting of who I am? And so I think that today I've grown tremendously in that aspect. But again, still have a long way to go with it.
No, we're never done, man.
Right.
Matt, this has been awesome. Thank you so much. One breath at a time counseling?
One breath at a time counseling.
Are you in person? Are you virtual?
All the above. I do walk and talk, virtual and in-person sessions. Yeah. www.onebreathataTimecounseling.com.
Boom.
Hit me up.
Do it.
Thank you so much, Chad. This has been awesome.
Thank you, man. My pleasure. And that was Matt. That was a great story. I fucking love that guy. I'm so proud of him. So proud of him. And you can hear it in his voice that he is proud of himself too. And that's a great place to get to. And he persisted and persisted and persisted. You know what? He got there. He got there. And you can get there too. It's not an impossible journey. It's just a long one and sometimes a hard one. All right, I am going to get out of here because I have talked myself silly today. So go and have yourself a wonderful time with whatever it is you're doing. Make it fun. Love yourself. Be kind and loving to yourself. Be kind and loving to others. Give yourself a big, big hug because you know what? You deserve it. And we'll see you next time here on Not All There.